Hello, and welcome to the Business and Hustle podcast. Today we have a special guest. We have Miss Paige Brown. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's
Yeah,
Tuesday. I'm rolling.
that's what I'm talking about.
hmm
We've met a couple times at two
Yep.
different ClickFunnels events, and now she's on my show. Miss Paige has a true passion for helping women, discover themselves, help them get their mindset correctly. And it's not a lot of people out here selling stuff that has a true passion for what they're doing outside of business. So I'm gonna let Miss Paige Brown give you a little background on herself. Miss Paige.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So my background, I started out in counseling, really. So that's where I started out just loving people. I knew that I wanted to be involved with people somehow. So when I was growing up, I really thought that meant I had to be like a police officer to do that, like because that's
Mhm.
what you're taught like when you're a kid, like that's the stack. And I was like, this is not my way to go. So I went to school for counseling as soon as I discovered that was a thing. And I realized that was my true passion, is just really helping figure themselves out. And but I felt like I was in a box when I was counseling. I felt like there was like, there's rules and regulations with counseling, and you have to follow, and it just put me in like a bad space. So when I found out that I could coach and really get out of the box and just go and like tackle all aspects of the person instead of just what was in the lines of those regulations, then that was it for me. So the coaching took off, and it's been kind of my home ever since. I would say that. So
Okay, let's go back to your days
yes.
counseling. All right, what type of counselor were you?
So I started out as a crisis counselor. I was going to do drug and alcohol addiction, but that was like super intense for me. So I realized interning with some foster care kids that I wanted to do. I wanted to work with kids. So I started out with foster care, and then I moved into the school system and loved working with high schoolers, and they're crazy, but I loved them. I mean,
Mhm.
they were great. So I did a lot with career and stress and anxiety management, because that's kids right now. I mean, they're just anxious and stressed and everything right now. So I got real good at that. So that's where
Mhm.
I started. Yeah.
All right. So is that where the passion came from? Was it before you started counseling, or did you have like a passion for people like from youth? I mean, where did this because you are very determined in what you're doing. So where did that come from? Was that before, after the counseling? How did that?
I would say definitely before. Like I've always been this person that wanted to show up for people 150% every single time. Like whether it was just my friends or whatever, like I was the kid that my parents, they didn't like, cuz I'd be the kid that like at midnight I'd get the call from my friend that got stuck at a party, and I'd be the one that wanted to go in the car to go pick
Mhm.
him up, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I've always been that way, and it kind of was a little rough for a while because not everybody's like that. So I just
Mhm.
assumed people were like me, like they'd show up for me just like I'd show up for them, but it didn't always end up that way. So as a teenager, that was kind of hard to compartmentalize. But then I just realized, I said, well, maybe that's my superpower, because I show up for people and get them where they need to go and
Mhm.
let them move on to wherever they need to be. And so with coaching, that really, it's like it plays, I show up 150%, like I play all out every single
Mhm.
time and get them where they need to go. And then they go and do their thing. So I think that
Mhm.
kind of started back when I was really little for that. So,
Right.
yeah.
And you speak of not being able to get in the holes with your
Mhm.
clients back before you started coaching, which I assume you addressed that with the coaching program. But what do you mean when you said you couldn't get in the holes with your clients?
So, like, with counseling, it's a lot of questions and prompting to get the person to where to, like, kind of recognize where they need to go on their own. And, with counseling, unfortunately, it's not like I mean, it is a science, but it's like a soft science for that
Right,
reason,
right.
because it's not really like you're gonna put some like in an equation and have it work 150% of the time. It just never works. So when you're a counselor, it's sort of like these guiding questions, getting them to go in the direction you need them to go. And it doesn't always go that way. And when they're going down the wrong direction as a counselor, technically within the parameters, you're not supposed to deviate from, from that. You can't go, hold on. Like, what you doing? Like, come back over
Mhm.
here. You can't do that. You have to allow them to make those mistakes and to go down that road. And so when I work with coaching, it's a whole different ball game. It's more like I always give the visual of like when I was a counselor, I feel like I was standing on the edge of the hole throwing tools. And so that
Mhm.
was like the questions. Like I'm trying to get them to utilize the tools, but I can't actually show them how to use the tools. Whereas with a coach, I can give them the tools and show them how to use the tools so I can get in the hole and help them dig themselves out. And it's more of that, like they can ask me that question, do you think I should do this? And I can actually respond in a way that I couldn't do, as a counselor. So like, because with coaching, there's different levels. It's more like you can have more of a hands-off coaching approach, but you can also have more of that coach mentorship relation. And I like
Right.
that. That's where I like to thrive because that was where I felt like I was stopped and like blocked before. And so for me to be able to get in the hole with like my women who are going like, who like we learned from the amazing Russell Brunson is,
Mhm.
you want to work with people that are a few steps behind you, and when you're working with people that are a few steps behind you, you know where you were and what you messed up in. So
Okay.
you don't
Correct.
want them to have the same problem. It stinks. So you can guide them away from that problem, and help them navigate, I would say, avoiding the holes, hopefully altogether, so that they can learn from you instead of falling in that pit,
Right.
So
Okay. So what I'm hearing is when they were coming in for counseling, they really needed more than counseling. Was that did you find that as like a cry out for something else outside of just general counseling?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that I get a lot of people that I work with that have gone through counseling and they go, I know what's wrong with me, but I don't know how to fix it. So,
Right.
and that's the thing. Like you get the what, but not the how. It's sort of like when you
Mhm.
pitch a business idea, right? We tell them the what's, but not the hows. It's like like I'm luring you in, but you're not giving them the how once they get in there. And
Right.
so, and I'm not knocking counseling because I think counseling to a degree for severe issues like depression, severe anxiety disorders, like other things like that, like, eating
Mhm.
disorders, things like that. I think getting into the psyche of your brain of what's going on and like the what, like understanding the what is really important to get to the how, right? Because if you don't know what's going on, you can't fix it. Like there's no path there. So I think that counseling is very crucial for a
Mhm.
lot of people, but then it's missing that final step to get them to that last little bit to get them over and truly feeling like themselves again. And I think that that's where the coaching comes into play. I mean, I would love it if, counselors could do referral programs with coaches because I think once they're done, like with the what of the individual, like
Right.
getting them into a coaching like situation would be even a better step for somebody to complete what they need to do. So,
Okay. So they end up staying in the, let's say, the what stage after, even after, during, if you don't, I guess if you're not learning how to change it, the counseling really only keep you in the discovery phase, if you will, that okay, now I'm really clear about what my problems are. And you saying that you need to have a step two to that. Okay,
yeah, I
now
mean,
that you're clear, mhm. Go ahead. What you saying?
yeah. Yeah, I think they definitely need to have that, like I really believe, and this is coming from people that have worked with me a lot, is they're just like, "I have done therapy, I've done the thing." Like, they'll tell me all and it's so funny because they almost always use the same phrases, like, every single person, which I think is so funny because
Mhm.
they don't know each other. Yeah, they go, "I know all the things." Like, "I know all the things. I don't know how to use all the things." And that's what they always tell me. And I'm like, well, this is perfect. So, and I do know there's more coaches now coming out of the counseling fields that can do similar things to what I do, which I think is great. I think that's fantastic because then they can communicate on that level. But like when people come to me and they say, I know what's wrong with me, and they speak in that therapeutic language, like the fact that I can understand what they're talking about is awesome. And there's a lot of coaches that won't hit the emotional barrier with a 10-foot pole. They will not talk
Right.
about stress, anxiety, any of that. They will say, no, you need a therapist for that. But what the problem is because of that bridge gap that they're lacking, then like they're not going to get that benefit of pushing through it if they don't have somebody who understands it like me, who can actually walk them through it in a different way as opposed to a therapeutic way. Because they might have already gone through that therapeutic
Right.
way, and it's just, and there's still that barrier there that they got to get through. And so phrasing it differently often gets them through that last piece, you know.
Okay. Okay.
So
So give me an idea of the you speak about limiting beliefs that these
mm.
women may have. Give me some examples of the limiting beliefs that really holding them back that they can use coaching.
So a lot of the women that I work with are really driven individuals, but they just don't know where to put it. So, or think that they can do it. So, and you know, I work with a lot of people in 2CCX and that environment. So it's a lot of business driven people, which is awesome. And I love that. That's like obviously a passion of mine now. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I love those people, but those limiting beliefs, it's like, I always describe the limiting belief is lodged in the subconscious, and it is this broken record player. Like, you know, when you have this, like, I guess I'm dating my age, you know, but like, you know, the record player,
Right. Mhm.
you know, but like when it would skip, you know, and it's just like
Right.
over and over again, the same like 5 words, like, and it's playing in your head and your subconscious. And a lot of times we don't even realize it's there, but the subconscious of the brain, I put in the back of my head because that's where it is, but like the subconscious area of your brain is the thing that drives us. It's like, it's the emotional triggers, and it's not the conscious part of our brain, because the conscious part of our brain is just aware of what we're seeing and experiencing physically, but not necessarily emotionally. And so the subconscious one running in the back of your head all the time, like the broken record player that it is what's driving you. And that's what's driving your like dreams or nightmares or ambitions and things like that, or causing you to take a step back and not move forward. So in that, when you're having those like broken record player moments, a lot of those beliefs are like, I can't do this. I'm not capable of doing this. I'll never be that person. And it's sort of like, you know, I heard that when we were just at Funnel Hacking Live a couple weeks ago. You know, I heard people talking about that. Like, I'll never get up on that stage. Like, how am I
Right.
supposed to do that? Like, those types of beliefs. And in women in particular, it's really severe because of the fact that it's like, I think we have the limiting belief, but we also have the guilt. So we have this thing of like, whether you have kids or not, like you have this guilt. Like if you are with a partner, like any kind of partner, like whether it's a
Right.
boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you sort of take on that role of like, well, I got to help the inside of the house, or I've got to do this,
Mhm.
or I've got to take care of the kids. So then the husband or the boyfriend or whatever goes out and does something else. And it's this, and it really wasn't that long ago when you think about it in the span of time that we were the homemaker. Like, you know, 1950 was not that long ago.
Right.
And so it's this thing that's been ingrained in us that we're supposed to stay, you know, in the house, and we're not supposed to do the activity, and we're not supposed to be the driven one, you know, like that kind of thing. So it's this, I can't, and I know my camera's being fuzzy,
Mhm.
but that I can't, and I won't be able to, or, and then we have the guilt playing like, well, I can't because of little Johnny, or I can't because I have to do the cleaning, or I can't because of this. So we always keep putting that in our brain of like reasons why we can't instead of reasons why we can. And those are those limiting beliefs that keep taking over. And I feel like I said, with women, it's that guilt factor too. So it's like double. It's like this is double thing that we have to get past, because we're not doing anything wrong. We're not doing anything wrong by wanting more. And, you know, I think the biggest thing that holds women back is selfishness. Like they think they're being selfish by wanting something more out of their life, when in reality, and this is what I walk my women through, but when in reality, it's being selfless, because you're trying to take care of yourself so that you can actually show up better in your life as a whole. Because if you feel like something's missing from your life, you start to resent people for holding you back
Right.
and
Right.
not allowing those things to happen. And so then it's not a healthy environment in your house or in your workplace or with your kid, because then all of a sudden you're going off on people and you don't even know why, because you
Right.
haven't
Right.
fulfilled that piece of you. So that's the thing. It's not being selfish when you're trying to improve yourself to be better for everybody around you. And
Right.
that's the big aha moment that I'm trying to get them to have.
Right.
So,
Right.
so yeah.
So it makes me think. I have 3 daughters, so I have
Mhm.
a real interest in what you're saying. How does it how do you get to how do you raise a young girl to where that's instilled in them before they're an adult and before somebody's recommending you need some help or you need counseling or something like that? How do you instill that into a young girl?
So it's actually funny because I was in a group just like 2 hours ago. We were kind of talking about this subject because it's a group for women. It's just a
Right.
very awesome, like empowering group. And we were talking about that. And it's in what we've come to the conclusion of there was a bunch of coaches in there. So it's kind of cool to get a million
Hmm.
opinions about
Right.
stuff. But and this is the opinion that I was holding on to too, is for girls, and I think for any kid, honestly, any kid across the board, boys too, because I think boys have their own other mental things that they're holding back on a lot of things. And theirs is more emotional than obviously is meant like you have a different frame of mind. But for
Mhm.
women, it's a lot of physical limitations that get put on us, right? Like, well, you can't do like even athletic events, right? Like certain athletic events, professional athletes are not paid as high as professional men. Like it's
Sure
always
is.
it's everything, right? So it's all
Mhm.
physical, when for boys it's emotional limitations. So there's two different things, and it's kind of funny because boys excel physically, girls excel emotionally. So it's like, oh, what if we didn't put these limitations on our kids? Like, what could happen? Could they actually be a balanced individual?
Mhm.
So
Right.
what we decided with these kids is not telling them, like, even when it's like certain little things in the house, like not saying what you can't do, like you can't play with this toy, or you can't make this mess, or you can't do this. Instead of saying can't all the time, and say, you know what? I know you want to do this, but what I would like you to do is one of these things. Like you can do this, this, or this. So instead of saying like you can't do it, like automatically going no, like stop, saying like, hey, I know you want to do that, but what we need to do because of time is you can do this, this, or this, and
Right.
giving them the choice of I can do things instead of always like instilling them I can't, I can't, I can't, is just
Mhm.
that positive verbal reinforcement for things,
Right. Right.
and encouraging them. I would say for women in general, anything that's physically challenging, anything that's out of the social norms of gender, which is like a big push I know just in the world today, but
Right.
like social norms of gender, and pushing them when they're little to be like, like when I was little, I wanted to play football. I wanted to play
Mhm.
football.
Right.
I never played football. I never did. That was like habit. Now I played in the cul-de-sac with all the boys
Right.
because that was just a fun thing for me and I loved it, right? But I couldn't even find a flag football team when I was a kid to play
Right.
football, because it was all boys. And so now, luckily, the little girls are playing flag football, and I think that's fantastic. But like encouraging them to think outside the box and not just like in the parameters that they think they're supposed to be thinking in is the biggest thing I feel like that you can push a girl to do, to be like, oh, I could do anything then. Cause like those are the little girls that, there's a professional kicker now that's a girl on an
Right.
NFL team. I mean, come on. Like that would never have happened 20 years ago. So letting them see like there is no limitation on what you want to do, and like go like, hey, what activity you want to do? And if they're like, well, dance, well, every little girl, it's dance, right? So
Right.
being like, well, why do you want to do dance? Like asking her why,
Right.
as opposed to, well, all my friends do dance. Well, is that a reason really why to do dance? Or do you want to do something else? Like, what do you really want to do? And encouraging her to express that, because like there's sometimes is that shame of like, I want to do a boy sport, or I'd
Right.
rather do something else. And that makes you less of a girl, and
Okay.
that's not, and yeah. So that's what we came It's so funny that you asked that question because it was like
Yeah.
literally a conversational piece 2 hours ago.
Right.
So good timing.
Yeah, yeah. I was really very interested, and I mean that your explanation that was I like that explanation. Don't just
Thank you.
say, "Hey, don't you can't do that," but actually give some options at the same time. I mean, something so simple like that. I mean, could change. I would have never thought, but now when saying it, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know,
It empowers a lot of kids. It just
right?
empowers all of them across the board. Cause like if somebody's listening that has a boy, I mean, it's a empowerment
Right.
across the board and it helps kids take ownership. And uh, the flip side of that is they're less codependent, when
Mhm.
they grow up because
Right.
they actually get to make a choice. So
Okay.
there's benefits on each side. So
All right, all right. Let's talk about your coaching program. Give us let us know tell us about it.
I love my coaching program. I'm so excited. I was jumping up and down telling him about it at FHL. Like,
That's right. We had no choice but to
so
get to
cool.
this moment right here.
Yeah, right. It was awesome. So my coaching program is tiered. So the big thing is I'll start with the framework itself. So the framework is what I call the hero method.
Mhm,
And so it takes women through, and I'll do the acronym because the hero is an acronym. So the
mhm,
H is hurt. So we go through the limiting beliefs, their imposter syndrome, whatever they feel like is the barrier holding them back. So they may not recognize it as limiting belief or an imposter syndrome situation that they have going on, but it's something that's in their lives that they feel like is holding them back. So if they feel like it's a physical barrier, it can still act as a limiting belief because if it's a physical barrier, it's in their head. It's not necessarily a reality. So you can still get over those barriers. So we work through that. And then we take them to the E, which is the emotional piece. So I encourage them to actually feel it. And there's a lot of women, especially driven women, who do sometimes have that emotional barrier just like men do because they don't want to be seen as weak in this society. Like entrepreneur land that I exist in is still very predominantly male. Like it is
yes.
very predominantly male. So when
Mhm,
we get in there and we're like emotional, it is a very weird feeling, right? Because it's like men are not emotional people typically. There are some men that are, but most men are not. And so as women, we feel like when we get into a man's world, we have to repress those emotions. And that's when we spin on the negative record player because we're not expressing those emotions.
right.
There's actually a book, and I cannot remember the book name on the top of my head, and I knew that was going to happen, but it basically equates men and women and how they express stress and emotion.
Mhm.
And they said men sweat, girls cry. So women's tears is like men's sweat. Like that's what they said. Because like men,
Right.
when they're stressed, they go to the gym. They work it out, bench a bag, whatever. Women
Mm,
cry when they're stressed. So it's like the same release, but two different expressions,
right.
So I always tell women, I'm like, it's like you're sweating, you're crying. It's okay. And it's okay to move through those emotions. So we make them feel it because of the fact that in a safe space,
Mhm,
which I think is really important for them to recognize that it's not going anywhere but here, and
right.
and they're allowed to actually cry in this space and not feel like something bad is happening.
Right.
So, and then the R is reframing the mindset. So we reframe it on the subconscious level, like we talked about earlier. That's like that emotional, like tie to that. It all ties together with the H and the E, like the broken record player and the emotions are all in that subconscious. So we reframe that subconscious brain and train it to be a different thought process
Mm,
so that it's not constantly playing this negative scenario in their head all the time. So they feel like they can move forward. And then the O is overcome. And so it's all about making that plan for their next steps in success.
mhm,
So because I work with women who are in business or entrepreneur land, that's what I call it. They either are managers, CEOs, COOs, or entrepreneurs of their own companies. So they're in upper level stress positions or entrepreneurs. So either way, it's like a very stress. Making the plan helps them maintain not only their emotions, but it also helps them maintain the stuff forward, like the plan forward. Hold on 1 second because
okay.
my phone was going off. So it helps them maintain the business plan forward. So it just helps them like see what the success looks like on the other side and where we can scale it. So a lot of times what ends up happening is because they're emotional and they've seen this barrier for so long, they never saw what was possible beyond that barrier, that they might be like sitting at like manager level, or they might be sitting at like the entrepreneur level of, you know, that 10 figure or the 5 figure mark at their monthly rate. Whereas because now they've pushed past all these walls, now they're be able to scale or go for that promotion that they feel like they want, because now they have a clearer path mentally and they're able to go in there confidently as opposed to having that roadblock. So we attack it on both sides, which is like the business limiting belief and then also the personal, because it affects both sides. So I do that with my framework, and I do that either in one-to-one, which is my higher ticket option, because I'm giving them personally my time 4 times a month, an hour of my time, and they can message me personally in between so we can like navigate all these things together. Or we can do a group. And the group was what I was like hyped up about with you, because I was like, I got the membership going. This is going to be amazing. So now we're doing a membership too, because I realized I'm only one person for the one-to-ones, and I only like to take on 8, maybe 10 women max, because I don't want to overload myself in the one-to-one. And so now I'm like, oh, I could serve more women if they knew this was out here. And so I do the membership now, and it's called Epic Mama.
Right.
So that's my membership. So I have that going now, and that's going to launch officially on Halloween. And it's going to do 2 coaching sessions, and we're walking through the framework that way. So it'll be more of a group related. So, because my dream with that is that they have the community built in for the support. So then they realize they're not alone. Because like what happens with my one-to-ones is it's just me and you. They don't really realize that there's this whole world out there of like women that feel exactly the same way. And then so the membership will help foster that. So I actually I'm putting all my one-to-one clients in there as well, so they can start building the community. And then I've already had a very good interest in it now. So it's good. It's like it's starting to build this, like, for people to come in there and just really support each other, which is what I want. And I want to be able to bring in that community that I feel like is so needed, because like I said, with it being in predominantly men concentrated areas, being able to let your walls down and completely just say what you want, and you know it's safe, is a really freeing, just freeing feeling. You know, you don't have to necessarily put on the mask in that group. You can just let it go, which I think is great. So
Yes, I love the program. I actually had to borrow a couple pieces of it for myself. I mean, your group program, I think you got some the greatest idea, and I think your whole program is amazing. I mean, I think that it's great. I think, that, like I said, I have 3 daughters, and I know sometimes they need that space outside of, you know, me, and how I'm very entrepreneur-ish. So they need that other side to go to, so they can even understand me, or just but get it from a different perspective, if that makes sense.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, and sometimes they need that space. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I think I'm sure it can help a lot of women, especially in the entrepreneurial space, which is tough, which is frustrating, which can be stressful. So it can go through all the emotions that you were talking about. You go through all that. Sometimes you think you need counseling, for one, for all the drama that you go through, and sometimes just even thinking you can pull it off, what it is that you're trying to do in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's rough. Sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes I sometimes do console calls, and some people just need a person to bounce ideas off of. Sometimes
Exactly.
it's just as simple as that, and you just want to be in a space where you don't sound stupid, you don't feel judged, and you just want to throw an idea out there. You can't do it with your family, can't do it with your friends. You just want a space to just, and that can do a lot for just your peace of mind. I mean, just for entrepreneurship, period. But I think that's amazing. So tell us where you can be found, and
Okay.
what do they have to do to find Paige?
Yeah, so I'm kind of everywhere, but I'm on Instagram pretty regularly now. I started building back at that up. I got away from it for a little bit. I was bad, but anyway, I'm back on there now. So that's just I do it as at PC Broad Coaching. It's easy because PC is my initials, so Broad Coaching, and then same handle for TikTok. So I'm on TikTok too, and then Facebook is I actually do have a business page, but I just tag my posts in there. So the PC Broad Coaching is on my business page, but at the same time, I do my personal page, and I love people to follow me on my personal page because I share more of my personal stories on there, not just business stories.
Yes.
So I do the Paige Owen Brown is like my maiden name is in the middle because there's a lot of Paige Browns out there in the world. Didn't know that until like got into all this stuff. So it's Paige Owen Brown for my Facebook. But if you are looking for the group, it's just The Epic Mama. So if you're looking at it and you want to look at it, like just the description stuff is on the outside, and then you can also DM me in that sense because of if you have questions. I always answer my DMs. I do have a VA, but I answer my DMs because
Right.
I'm like, it seems a little personal. So I answer my DMs. But yeah, so if they have questions or whatever, you can also message me on Instagram. I do answer those too, and they can find me on really anywhere. The only thing I don't do is Twitter because it confuses me, honestly. It's too much. It's too much on Twitter. I can't do it.
Right.
I can't do Twitter. And Snapchats, I'm old. I can't do Snapchat.
You sound like me.
I'm not that old, okay? I'll be 39, but I just.
Well, you better quit playing around.
You look good though. You look good for whatever age, So.
49.
Oh, then I would not have guessed that. You look good. Like I saw that post though about like I need to put she's my daughter or something like that. And I was just like, that is so funny because like you do not look 49. So good for you. So.
Everybody at the conference thought that was my wife or something. I was like, okay. That's why we decided, we might have to wear a hat, say father, daughter.
Well, you know what? Or you could just be like, well, I just look better than I age better.
There you go.
She wouldn't like that though, probably.
There you go. But yeah. I definitely appreciate you. It's been a great conversation. And like I said, I love what you do. And it's not, like I said in the beginning, there's not many people that run a business, have a program, and are actually just extremely passionate and informed. Like I said, she was just talking to a bunch of coaches. So it's very informed. So you're passionate, informed, you're smart. I met you, you motivated a woman.
I appreciate that. I do. I really do. And I do genuinely care. So I'm glad it comes through because it's just one of those things that if I can help somebody get to another level, my day is made. Like I love the light bulb. I tell people all the time, it's like that teacher light bulb syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
When the light bulb goes off, that's like, I'll be good for like a month if I can get that. So,
all right.
Yeah.
But that's it for today. Thank you. Thank you all for watching. And thank you, Paige, for coming. Appreciate
Anytime.
it.
Thank you.
All right.